Hi pumpkins, blessed Lughnasadh. Today is Lughnasadh. Lughnasadh is one of the 4 Celtic high days. So in what is called in modern paganism the Wheel of the Year, there are 4 high days that are Celtic in origin, that being Imbolc, Bealtaine, Lughnasadh, and Samhain, and then there are 4 Norse high days, which are the sun festivals. So we have the fire festivals, which are the Celtic ones, and the sun festivals, which are the Norse ones. The Norse holidays are the solstices and equinoxes. The Celtic high day of Lughnasadh starts at dusk on July 31st and goes until dusk on August 31st. The Celtic day always starts at dusk. So we have the eve of being the most sacred time. So we have the eve of Lughnasadh, which happened last night. Actually, I'm filming this the day before, but I will have celebrated last night. And Lughnasadh celebrates the funeral games of Lugh's mother. So the story of Lugh's birth is kind of awesome. Well, most of the Celtic myths are awesome because humility is not a Celtic trait. His birth was a miracle birth. There are many cases throughout history of various religions and mythologies having a miracle birth where it is predicted, where someone tries to prevent this birth, where the child is half human and half deity, or is some combination of god of the deities, and there's a miracle birth involved. If you're interested more in that, you can look at the movie for Zeitgeist on religion. I know that there are some issues, especially when he's talking about Mithras, especially when he's talking about Horus, but it does showcase that there are many gods who were born on this miracle birth tale that's quite similar. So, Lugh was conceived. His parents are Ethlinn, who is a Fomorian princess, and she was locked in the tower because it was foretold that her son would be the one who killed her father, Balor. And so if there was no son, then there was going to be no one to defeat Balor. So he locked up Ethlinn in a tower, kind of like Rapunzel, but without the long hair. And who came to rescue Ethlinn but Cian. So Cian is the one who rescued Ethlinn, and Lugh was conceived. So Lugh means the bright one, the shining one, and we celebrate Lughnasadh. We celebrate the funeral games of Lugh's mother through games. My favorite story of Lugh, I think, is important to tell as well, and it is the story of when Lugh shows up at the gates of Mactubh just before the war with the Fomorians, who I just discussed. And he is not allowed in. The guard at the gate says, "Well, what do you have to offer?" And Lugh says, "Well, I'm a warrior." Guard says, "We already have a warrior." "I'm also a bard." "We already have a bard." "I'm also a fletcher." "We already have a fletcher." "I'm also a blacksmith." "We already have a blacksmith." "I'm also a hooper." "We already have a hooper." So he goes through all of these different trades, and at the end, Lugh says, "But do you have someone who possesses all of these skills?" All right, come in. And that's how he, part of the army of the Tuatha. So I think that's an important tale because it showcases that humility is not a Celtic trait, and that it's important to be confident, and that boasting isn't necessarily a bad thing, because who's going to toot your own horn except for yourself? So Lugh is honored for being someone who's skilled. He's got a bit of a, football team frat boy attitude to him, but not always in a bad way. He's someone who's athletic, he's outgoing, he's witty, he's charming, and you may see, if you're ever at a pagan festival, somebody has a bumper sticker that says WWLD, what would Lugh do? And we often think, when we are feeling discouraged, of what would Lugh do? How would he handle the situation? And he'd rock the crap out of it. That's what he'd do. So we celebrate the funeral games of Lugh's mother through playing games for fun, competition for fun. So these are things like, in our modern day, maybe we would have like a three-legged race or a sack race where you go, the potato sacks and pull them up, and just things that you have around, the egg race. So these are often games that I played as a child when we had family reunions, and usually it was, early August when we had this. In Canada, we have Civic Holiday on the first Monday of the month, which is kind of usually the weekend we had the family reunion on. So it was this gathering, and we would play games and tell family stories and have just a jolly old good time. When you are talking about the wheel of the year as such, there's also talk about death, and I mean, as I said, we are talking about the funeral games of Lugh's mother. So that funeral and death, and so there's the end of the editing. Caroline here. Apparently, my camera stopped working halfway through recording, so I'll just finish it here. Pardon the change in clothing and everything. Life happens. And this is editing Merlin. Hello. Okay, off. Mummy's working. Thank you. So even though it's at the halfway point between midsummer, the summer solstice, and the first day of fall, we still have a feeling that the end is coming, so we can notice that the days are a bit shorter. Sunset's happening a little earlier, so we don't have as much time. So even though we're enjoying the bright sun, we're enjoying the weather, we're enjoying summer, we're enjoying the abundance of food, we are also aware that summer is going to come to an end. We hear the story of the Wicker Man. Now, we don't know how much of this is influenced by Roman historians and how much of this is accurate. However, the idea of the Wicker Man was this giant wicker effigy, this giant wicker statue that was filled with offerings to the gods. So there was animals and grain and people. So ancient Celts did human sacrifice. Modern Celtic reconstructionists do not do human sacrifices. If we do animal sacrifices, we are offering up meat. We tend to not sacrifice animals to the gods anymore. That's not something that we do. I remember hearing somebody say that it was an honor to be part of the Wicker Man, that people wanted to do this, and that's probably not the case. That if this happened to prisoners of war, this happened to criminals. This wasn't something that you were looking forward to your whole life. That was the Aztecs, who had no connection with the Celts. Whether or not human sacrifice was done, as I said, is a bit controversial. Julius Caesar did talk extensively about the Celts doing human sacrifice, but history is written by the victors. And unfortunately, the Celts did not win in the long term. And the Celtic lands were taken over by Rome. The story of John Barleycorn plays into this as well, who is the personification of whiskey. Whiskey is considered our holy water in Celtic Reconstructionism, so the word whiskey comes from uske, which is fire water or life water, water of life. So there's life in the cup, as is one says. And the idea of the grain, the barley being processed and being fermented and then turned into alcohol is the life cycle of John Barleycorn. There is a song by Dave the Bard, and I will link that below. It's a really neat song. I will also link his song to Lughnasadh. Alcohol does play a large part in Celtic Reconstructionist society. Druid circles, we tend to like our booze. If you don't drink, you are still welcome at Druid gatherings. There is a way to give an offering and not drink it. So typically, before you give an offering, you take a sip so that the gods can see that it's not poisonous. But instead, you just pour a little bit on the ground and then pass the cup along, and that's how we do it. I can recall one year at a festival, and there were 3 of us sitting around the fire late at night. I brought the mead, which is a honey wine. I make award-winning mead. My My friend Hobbs brought the sort, JP and JP brought the bourbon, and yeah, I think I stumbled back to my cabin somewhere close to dawn. It was a rough morning. Another important part of Lughnasadh is food. Food is a part of any feast, of course. Food scarcity would have been something that all of our ancestors, regardless of where they lived in the world, did struggle with, and we have ready access to anything we want year-round. If you watch this channel regularly, you'll know that I fast strawberries from Samhain, 1st of November, until Bealtaine, the 1st of May. They get peed on by the puka, which is a type of fairy. I don't like eating fairy pea, so some druids do all berries. I only do strawberries. But it's an awareness that we don't have access to local foods year-round unless you live somewhere like the Mediterranean or California, where you have a year-round growing season. So this time of year we have abundance of many, if not most, of our fruits and vegetables, and so this is the time when you do a lot of canning, when you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from. And I find it very easy personally to eat healthy this time of year because there's so many fresh local fruits and vegetables, and I really do try to support local farmers and buy from farmers markets when I can. And right now I'm enjoying zucchinis, and I'm enjoying local raspberries. So blueberries are coming up soon, and we're gonna have the stone fruits very soon. So our peaches and plums and pears, and I'll can those up and save those for the winter. So this is really a time to enjoy feasting. Feasting is always good. So however you are celebrating, I hope that you are having a joyous and blessed Lughnasadh. And if no one has told you today, I want you to know that I love you, that I care about you, and that I am glad you're here. Hail Lugh. Bye, pumpkins.